No, I think for me, it's prioritize. You don't have to have the answer in how you get there. It'll come to you. Visualize how you want to get there. Understand why your emotions are where they're at. And don't be distracted by 20 things. Be distracted by, two or three things that you just need to focus on.
This is Intentionally Ever After. Join intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek for a series of personal conversations and coaching sessions with various people about how living with intention shows up for them.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Intentionally Ever After. Today, I am thrilled to be chatting with the great, the one, the only, Mr. Konan Hauser. Konan, welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, really glad to have you this morning.
Yeah.
Konan, will you kindly introduce yourself to folks?
I am a late 40s father of, technically four, but one kid, one direct kid, we'll put it that way. I feel like I'm your typical male human being that's gone through their ebbs and flows in life, and career-wise and relationship-wise and spirituality-wise, I guess if that's a word. Find myself here in the highlight of my life, and I'm trying to zero in on, what's the best way to approach it from here on out.
Excellent. Pretty good context and foundation to be coming in with.
Good. Thank you.
Konan, what does it mean to live intentionally?
I view it as zeroing in on what you really want and what is it that makes you happy. And from my perspective, even doing whatever it takes to protect those things that make you happy, prioritizing them, not letting the clutter of everything else, I think day to day and in your life kind of get in the way of anything that distracts you from focusing on those things.
That's great. I love that idea of protection, right? Once you find something that is of such great value to you, that you want to protect it from these other things.
Yeah, that's something I think in my life of the last 4 to 5 years, I've kind of got to the point where I'm on the upswing. Things are better in all aspects of my life. And I found myself going back to that and saying, if given a dilemma or options, what is the one thing that I need to do that protects this more than anything else? Protect the most important things. And, it gives me focus.
That's awesome. All right. I'm going to ask for a specific. What are the intruders that challenge your ability to protect, or that you feel like you need to protect from? What are the key invaders here?
I think, I think oftentimes it comes down to, where there's a crossover in your life between different relationships. Ultimately, I think it's relationships, really. I might have something that's work related, and then at the same time, something that is, personally related. And at some point, there may be some, a meeting that's coming up, or, where maybe work is becoming too much and I'm getting too distracted with work and it's impacting my relationship. It's a way for me to come back and say, okay, I need to make sure this is taken care of first before I can focus everything else. And of course, my personal relationship is going to be the most important piece. And so ultimately I say it's that. It also, in work, it could be work decisions that come down to, do I do A or B in this approach and how I'm going to approach this week in my work, or something I need to do? Do I admit I made a mistake? Or do I move down this path if I think I can fix this without anybody knowing? And I always go back to which one of those decisions is ultimately going to protect this job, which is the best job I've ever had, and prioritize that. So yeah, I think there's a couple good examples.
Yeah, no, those are great examples. All right. Can you integrate the idea of setting boundaries into what you've just said?
Yeah, I think boundaries then probably come into, always heard it referred to in the dating sense as a hard limit, right? What are the hard limits that you have with something? Or, my boundaries are I'm fine being with somebody in a relationship unless they are a smoker. That's a hard limit. I just can't deal with that, right? So to me, boundaries are similar to that. It's, if a job has a requirement that forces me into feeling bad about what I do on a daily basis, that's a hard limit for me because I actually prioritize that emotion of being happy in what I do. So I need to then, I can't have all those things at once. I need to make a priority or a judgment then. So to me, that's a boundary. When something crosses over into another area that interferes with what makes me happy or what I want to pursue, that's that boundary.
Right. Okay. So when you're saying hard limit, it's not that it's difficult to uphold. It's that this is so clear. There's nothing going to get past this limit.
I think it's always hard. from my perspective, the human, as a psyche, we always gravitate towards comfort and warmth and things that make us feel comfortable, right? So I think it's not easy in that there's always conflict involved in that decision. But once you recognize what you need to do and it's the right thing, then it's easy. You don't even try to second guess what your approach should be or what you should do. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So do you have these hard limits defined for other areas of your life?
How would you define other areas?
Well, you talked about you made a reference to relationships. You've referenced kind of work as it relates to boundary between work and life. How about limits in areas like personal growth or social relationships, maybe?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it seems to ebb and flow a little bit, naturally. I mean, who we are when we're 18 is different than we are, like me at 48 right now, right? And so I think your priorities and how you view your life and your experiences definitely change those. And so, I would say, a challenge for me over my life is putting my personal needs first. A big part of my history, I would always, ignore my needs for others' needs. And I have learned over the last 10 years that that's not healthy. It doesn't deliver me to where I needed to be. And I think that's where it would start to impact those other relationships or jobs or things around me, and compile them. Or I think if they're there, I might not recognize that they're there until something comes up that introduces it. For an example, my parents are super healthy right now, but that could change overnight. And when that changes, then I think my priorities and needs and balances in my life have to change along with it a little bit. And it's, to me, unreasonable to think they wouldn't. So,
well, also in that example, your role would shift too, as being more of a caretaker, right?
Yeah. And then that ultimately, then I think then changes my interpersonal relationship with my partner or, my child or even work. Like all those other things have to change or adjust then. So then it becomes a matter of, how do you reprioritize what's the most important thing you need to focus on and be comfortable with that choice. That's another piece of this too, I think, for me in a way, is making a decision and recognizing it's a decision and, moving forward with it, might not be right, might not be wrong, but make a decision and move forward. Don't live in an ethos.
Right. There's plenty of people that kind of, they weigh the decision and there's too many fears or concerns about taking any one direction. They just kind of sit in limbo, right? So it sounds like you're more likely to take action and then see what happens.
Yeah, I saw a shirt the other day and I'm sure this has been around for years and I just have been under a rock or something, but it was progress over perfection. And I love that. I think even having, teenagers, it's a real good thing to keep in mind and to teach. So,
yes, I'd say for most people, but yeah, especially those who have to quote unquote deal with teenagers. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is one change in habit that for you has had an exponential payoff?
I think taking care of myself first, or my priorities and what I want, recognizing what are my own thoughts and opinions, what do I want. God, this sounds super selfish. It's even hard for me to say this next piece, but not caring so much about what other people think. Because in my raw nature, that's not me. I care about everybody else around me so much. And
well, hang on 1 second. Do you believe that you can't care about everyone else around you and still prioritize yourself? Do you think they're mutually exclusive?
That's a great question. I think I recognized finally that it's different. Like I do care about people around me. If they have an opinion of me that I don't like, it's okay. Or that, what people's perspective of me, I need to be my own human being, live a good life, be a good person, be supportive, be helpful. I have a French friend that feels neglected because I haven't been able to talk to them. Maybe there's a reason why, maybe they're not as close to me as they used to be. And maybe that doesn't mean a lot to me anymore, unfortunately. But I think, focusing more on, what I need and I didn't come to this realization on my own. I mean, my partners helped me get there, but yeah, I think it's that it's prioritizing what I want, need, and being a little selfish.
Yeah, so it sounds like this is coming up as you're faced with maybe some long-term pre-existing relationships that might be shifting.
Well, yeah. I mean, I divorced father, was in a marriage for years that probably wasn't the strongest. I'm not blaming anybody. It just, it just wasn't good. I don't think I had a good sense of what the relationship should have looked like originally. But became single, found a new relationship with somebody who is dramatically different than what I had before, and in a very good way, like the perfect fit for me. And I think that's a good example of how my priorities changed. Then all of a sudden, that person became one of the most important people in my life, or things I had to protect more than anything else, because they offered me something I didn't know existed before, or I didn't know what it was supposed to be like, or a healthy approach to a relationship. So yeah, I think, and I think that relationship has changed, and that's been 10 years now. As that relationship's getting stronger and stronger and grows, and it's everything I've wanted it to be, it definitely changes the relationships and things around me too. So
it sounds like it showed you there can be another way. And it sounds like a mostly positive way as well. Things didn't have to be the way that it was. It is what it is kind of thing. It sounds like you expanded your mental model about what this type of relationship could be.
Yeah. I think it showed me, how incredible, how special a good relationship can be and what it can mean for you. I guess it goes back to your hierarchy of needs, right? And, for me, I think having a strong relationship with somebody, a positive one, is super, super important for me. It's very foundational. I have to. That's how I'm wired. And so I think when that settled in and got to a good place, then that helped me out, I think, with everything else around me as well. So it's interesting when we first started dating, I didn't know how to handle the way she was with me. I think she's a strong woman, very strong, but incredibly loving at the same time. And so I wasn't used to that. I was used to a strong personality being something completely different than a strong woman. And I had to basically decipher and learn the differences between those two through experience. And it definitely showed me then, a different side. It showed me something else that existed I didn't know was there before.
Love it. Love it. This is a breaking down of your previous mental model, right? And as you live more experience and you're willing to take chances, that's when you can redefine, what a relationship can be.
I like the chances piece of this too. I have a daughter. Between the two of us, we have 3 daughters. And there's a TED Talk I saw about how to raise your daughters to be brave, and in that TED Talk, they talk about how boys are raised to, break a arm, break a leg, be adventurous, do all these other things. But women, we raise daughters to don't take risks, don't be outspoken, don't do these things. And it creates this totally different social setting for them. And to me, it's like, take those risks, be a little bit afraid. It's okay. Make a direction, go for it. But it's your decision. Be willing to learn from that decision. And so it's definitely a part of it.
That's awesome. It sounds like within limitations, right? You're allowing your daughters to explore and take chances. Again, within the limitations that you've laid out.
I would actually encourage her to even do more. We try to push her to do more and more and more. But she's just not kind of wired. If anything, she's the type of teenager I want to get in a little bit of trouble. It's okay. Don't be afraid of everything around you. It's okay. So, yeah.
What have you said no to that has made a significant impact in your life?
Would you say no is the same thing as ignore?
Ooh, for the purpose of this question, yes. What do you mean?
I think there's a prior relationship that because of a shared child would try to bring me back into drama related to it, or, differences of parenting and approaches. And, like I think any husband and wife or couple, you're going to have different approaches to raising a kid. And I think it's fair to have different approaches and have different voices for a child and what you see and hear. I don't think mine's necessarily fully right. And I don't think the others is either. But I think the one thing for me, and this actually came out of then as I started to prioritize what was important to me, my current relationship was more important. And these other conversations coming into it started to become something that was breaking that down or causing, strife. Why are you letting her say this about your daughter, and this and that? And it's not really her business. Your daughter's with you this week and what you're doing with her. And again, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but that ultimately I got to the point where I'm just saying, no, I'm just not even going to engage, even though there was an intention or a drive to want to engage, because that's what they want. I'm not going to. I'm making the decision that nothing good is going to come out of this, and I don't need my energy there. I need to focus on something else. So,
perfect example. Right. Absolutely. That's you saying no to engaging with that type of, that temptation they want you to be drawn into that conversation. What would you say has been the impact as a result of you saying no? What has been the positive impact?
Less asking, less, somebody on the other side trying to pull me into it because I won't. I'm just happier. It doesn't consume my day. It doesn't consume any more of my time. And I haven't been perfect with it. Like there's mistakes I've made along the way, and I'm okay. I'm comfortable with those mistakes. But it's the first time I've ever been a parent. If this is my third 17-year-old kid, this would be totally a different conversation. You'd think I'd have some groundwork, and even then, everybody's different. Every kid's different.
Well, that's precisely it. Every kid is different. So yeah, we'd probably be having the same exact conversation. Yeah,
you're right. But yeah, I think it just changed me in that there's just been less. I think I've been happier because where those types of conversations in the past would bring stress to me and kind of consume me a little bit and keep me unfocused from what I wanted to be focused on at that moment. It was just this huge distraction. So it got me to the point where I could be happier in the moment. I could not, have things in the back of my head that were bothering me. I got very comfortable and just, I'm not even going to reply to that. In fact, a good friend of mine taught me a good key to the text message reply. It's basically just say okay, and it's your internal code word to basically tell the person to F off. And so anytime, and hopefully that person doesn't listen to your podcast. I hope you have a ton of listeners, Joe, but I hope she's not one. Every time I reply, okay, that's my internal way of just saying F off. And it's actually helped me bring a little humor to it too, and walk away and put up a wall. So
that's awesome. Yeah. In case she is listening, starting now, you'll just simply change the word to something else. Like, alrighty. Right? Yeah.
Gotcha.
I love that idea. What area in your life feels just about perfect?
Career right now. Yeah, it'd be career. I love my job. I love what I do. It's basically what I do is almost all 1099 work. And for one agency, it's just been the perfect fit. I could set my own hours. I could take as much time off as I want. I can, take a vacation and work from wherever I'm at, for a couple hours in the morning just to stay on top of things. I think more than anything else, I'm just appreciated for what I do. I love our clients and customers. Hey, Joe. And it just, I never fret when I wake up on Mondays, and it's great. It's fantastic. So I would say that piece of it is pretty perfect. I always want to go back to my interpersonal relationship with my partner, but I know those can always be improved and better. So I kind of shy away from saying that's perfect. To me, it's a kiss of death, it feels like, but that's pretty damn good too.
Sure. No. You're not making any overly bold claims, I don't think. Yeah, well, maybe we can just say that you feel like it's going perfectly, right? It's a continuous process.
I like that. Yeah.
Too late. I already kept your answer, the first one. Who is someone you admire, and what do you admire about them?
My partner. She's amazing. She's changed my life. She's shown me how to be strong, not be afraid to be who you are. And we're very different. How to just not worry about the BS and the stuff that's really not important, and just pursue your joys. And we love music. We love live music. And there might be a show on a Wednesday night that's an hour away. And it's like, oh, do we want to go? And it's like, yeah. I mean, are you ever going to look back on your deathbed and say, remember that Wednesday night in the middle of February when I didn't get enough sleep? No, but I'll remember that show I went to and had a great time and how to pursue joys in life. And it's things like that. She's always taught me over the years, not directly like we sit down and have a lesson, but I've observed her, making the most of every moment. Everything is an opportunity that's around you. Find that and go with it. And it's without a doubt her. So.
That's great. And if you go to that concert on a Wednesday in the middle of the week, you might have a chance encounter with someone that might influence the next phase of your life, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Or just, and it's experience. I love experiences too, and we like those things together, whether it's a trip to go somewhere or to see a show or something unique or different. Like we kind of thrive in the new now, and, embracing that feeling and, figuring out a new place or situation. So, yeah.
What do you imagine some people admire about you?
Ooh, I'm not real good at talking about myself that way.
Good.
Joe.
It's all on you.
Probably just interpersonal. Like I've always, at my core, I have this thing where I'm horrible with names, really bad. And people always like, how can you not remember names? It's just so rude or offensive. And I'm like, with a name like Konan, I'm kind of used to that my entire life. My name's never said correctly and it's always wrong. But I could meet somebody for 5 to 10 minutes, running them 2 years later, and I could tell you everything about them and who they are and how they're wired, what's important to them, their kids, motivations, life, and it's probably that piece of it, just, getting to know people and understanding who they are and, just, I think not trying to be a passive person in life, trying to be an active person. So I would say that.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing about remembering names. There is shame around that, right? You're like, how can you not remember someone's name, right? You can remember all these other details. How can you not remember their name? Well, there are plenty of reasons for that, right? But what's the important thing to you that when you see someone, you don't remember their name, what's important to you that they know?
I would rather somebody says, "Hey, Konan, how have you been? It was hard losing your dog last year. I remember this and that, blah, blah, blah. How's that going?" And, I'd much rather have somebody who life's all about the relationships. I'd rather have that at some level than somebody getting my name right. Yeah. There's people in our company that know me for 4 years and still say my name wrong. And it's on me. I probably should tell them that they're saying it wrong.
If you're not correcting them, there could be something. But if it doesn't bother you, then
it doesn't. I'm like, we're in a great spot and I'm happy. So,
all right. You mentioned actually 2 items that you thought were in a perfect place, right? You were only supposed to do one, but you threw a second one in there. What would it look like to add some intentionality in your life? How would that show up for you if you increased intentionality?
In what area? Where would it show up, or how would it?
Yes.
Where would probably be more with my daughter. At this point, she's 18, she's leaving the house here, dear God, please, in about 6 months. She will. She's going off to college. I know she will. But I think there's a threshold there where you're like, I'm putting this human out into the world somewhat, still helping with college. She'll have her own part to take care of, but is this human ready to at least, bump and grind their way through life a little bit and be happy? Because that's ultimately what I want. So I think there's any sort of intention now, would probably be more in that space than anything. And I think part of that's because it feels like it's fleeting a little bit. And also at the same time, I think it could be improved. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's super relatable. I mean, we have these different phases with our kids, right? And you're facing one where there's a significant transition, right? They're physically going to be leaving the space. She is. And so in this time, what's most important to you during this phase, knowing that you're entering another phase? And maybe thinking beyond the fact that this is the end of it. What's most important during this period?
I'm kind of I don't want to say struggling with that, but I there's part of me that gets into this super dad mode. That is, what else can I teach you about life, or what you need to know to make your own decisions? Or you're saying you need to change your oil, here's how to change a flat tire. Just basic stuff. And then there's stuff that is kind of life and relationship focused. There's other pieces where I'd like her to be a little bit more courageous. Like she's been sick this weekend and she, do I need to go to the doctor? It's like, yeah, why not? You could take yourself to the doctor. Like, you're 18, you could do that. Like, and part of I don't want to separate out as a parent, but create independence is take care of yourself a little bit. Do you feel like you need to go? This isn't my question. You know yourself. And so to me, it's kind of, I don't know. I think it's like getting her into the world and kind of, ready for at least the next step, or with enough fortitude. I think if it is, to figure out how to navigate through life, because it changes so much. I mean, and kind of tying into that, how that approach comes about. There's a part of me that feels like it's still this family time thing where, just 2 years ago it was all 4 kids around the same table, and now it's down to 2. So that family time feeling is gone. It's kind of changed. Holidays, it changes, but that piece changes. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Well, it seems like once you figure it out, then the next shift happens and you're in the next phase, which will look slightly different as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point about things constantly changing, it doesn't sound like you're ever going to be able to impart all the wisdom before she moves on to college, right?
I know that. I'm well aware of that. I think if there's one thing I would need her to be, it's a little more independent. And this goes back to, I think, part of the things I was addressing earlier is, moms have a different approach. In this case, her mom has a different approach to raising her than I do. I trust this kid. This kid's never been in trouble. If she wants to come at 1:00 in the morning, I have zero concern with that because I know she doesn't do anything bad. I hope she is.
Have you told her that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. She knows that. Yeah. I actually have told her that. And unfortunately it comes up because there's this conflict where the mom's reaching out and saying, why are you letting her do this and this and that? And I'm like, I'm not reaching out to you and asking you why you're not letting her do this. I think she's great. She's not getting in trouble. She's never proven us wrong. She's always been fantastic. This is my decision. And so, okay.
Okay. All righty.
Okay. All righty. But yeah, I have told her that. And again, this is where I want to almost push her a little bit more to be a little bit more adventurous. And so we actually have something we're planning in March, which will, I think, it's going to force her to kind of be a little bit more independent. So
does she know it's coming?
Yeah. One of her favorite bands that she wants to see really, really bad is doing a show in Chicago. And this is in March. And so we got her a ticket for the show. We're actually going to be in that area already, but she's coming back from spring break. So she's going to actually have to fly herself from Denver to Chicago and then meet us and we'll go to the show. And it's like, great. We got tickets for her 18th birthday. It's like front row tickets. So it's kind of leveraging this like super cool moment that she's just going to love and having to travel independently on her own to do so. So
that's great. You're framing it up like a reward, right? She'll be rewarded by having done this.
Yeah. How bad do you want to do this? Like, you could do this. Like, anybody could do anything. You just got to get over your mental barriers to do it. Like,
simple.
Well, I take that back. I can't fly. I mean, I guess I should be realistic about that.
What do you mean you can't fly?
Without dying? Probably not. But I can fly. I need help. Yes. You're right. That's a good perspective. I like that. I like that mindset.
Yeah, not everything needs to be challenged, but I like to challenge everything. If a viewpoint is not helping us, if it's only limiting us, then I absolutely look for a reframe, right? It's like, well, I'm not saying it's not true, right? There might be some validity to it. And sometimes those are the hardest things to reframe. It's not saying that's not true. Well, you know what? Sometimes it is, but it's not a helpful narrative. So let's reframe. Let's recreate a narrative around it that's actually helpful to you.
Yeah.
So that you don't carry on any like limited grief around it, or it's not like a knot in your stomach. There's enough other stuff that challenges that.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
I want to ask you about this. Before we hit record, we talked about the idea of manifestation. I was wondering if you could talk about that as it relates to intentionality or what your thoughts are around it.
It's something that whenever I do it, it always seems to happen, but yet I have a hard time just fully embracing it at the same time because it
Why?
feels voodoo-y in a way,
It feels voodoo-y to talk about it perhaps to certain people.
And maybe it's, I don't know why, but it works. Visualizing, what's this look like when I hit this goal that I want to hit? What are my emotions at that time? What am I doing at that time? Fully encapsulating my brain around what that looks like. And I'll be damned, it happens every single time I do it. It eventually happens. I think I've learned not to put the timeline on it or when that happens and let go of some of those other boundaries, those human element things that we want to control everything. But it always happens. So.
Okay. So what you're saying is you found a formula for success, a 100% success rate. And the only reason you don't do it is when you worry about talking to people about it.
I feel like if there's something I'm struggling with, I always have to remind myself just to manifest it a little bit more or to put more, I want to use your word, intention around it. It feels like I always go, I think my natural instinct, and maybe it's the human instinct, is to go back and find other ways to burst through the wall. And, we should have answers for this and look it up on the internet. And you'll figure it out. And the options will kind of present themselves in front of you if you just, I don't know, it's almost like take a step back and remind yourself of that. So.
Yeah. Again, it sounds like a foolproof system that you've come up with. And you already know that when you struggle with it, you know how to come around with it.
I didn't come up with it.
You can claim it. That's fine. No one else has claimed it. far as I know.
I didn't come up with it. I didn't come up with it. I can't actually, it was something that was introduced to me about 11, 12 years ago. It's definitely become more and more a part of my approach and perspective, over the last 3 or 4 years even. So
is there something in the form of a habit around this, do you think, to integrate more of it into your life?
Yeah, I think, there's always a feeling you get, right? I think for me, it's if I have an uneasy feeling, it's figuring out why, not the answer, but the why. What is this that's causing this? Something else my partner's really helped me out with over the years is root cause. She's a Kellogg Business School, Kellogg Business School graduate, and she really works on root cause. What's the root cause of that emotion and feeling? What's really causing that to happen? And I think recognizing when that feeling comes on, that it's there, and then knowing that I need to, if it's really bothering me enough, let's put some energy into what's the output that I want out of that. How do I feel better? And then, mentally working that out. I think running's been a big part too. I used to be a big runner. In the last 3-4 years. I've started getting back into that. Early mornings, 3, 4, 5 miles. There's something there, I think, with both of those things together. It could be, maybe, now that I think about it, it could be there's time set aside for it, right? Because running's horrible. I hate it. But there's time set aside. I'm running for an hour and a half. This is horrible. And things kind of flush themselves out a bit. So,
yeah. Okay. Well, in absence of insisting upon the running piece of it, how much time do you think is a minimum amount necessary to tap into this feeling, to experience it?
The feeling of resolve, or the feeling of?
Yeah, I guess resolve, but also maybe the honing in and focusing in on how you want to feel, how you want to react to it.
It's not much.
Maybe the idea of manifestation into it.
It's not much. It's not like it's an overwhelming thing where I think about it all the time. I mean, your brain automatically will bring up those things in that emotion and that feeling, and then I just personally connect it back to what I want the output to be. Job and career is a good example of this. Back, 4 years ago, not happy, not feeling good, feeling very stressed about what I was doing, underappreciated, underpaid, all these things, just hated job and work, and started visualizing what would it feel like to not be afraid to wake up on a Monday morning, and to feel very comfortable, and hell, to not find a way to fill my time at work with something to do, but to almost feel like, God, I ran out of time today. That sucks. And visualizing those types of things and what those feel like. And I just, every time I felt like that, I would start to visualize what I wanted it ultimately to not feel like that. What does me in a good place feel like? And it's not much. I think it's just, for me, 2 or 3 small reminders. And I try to visualize the happiness or the moment or the situation or something different. And it's not much.
That's a pretty good takeaway.
I've got other mistakes we could talk about.
Oh, we don't have enough time for all those mistakes, but maybe part 2. All right.
We'll see how many downloads you get.
There we go. We'll check the data. What other thoughts that you have or would like to share with listeners?
As a person who starts to creep up on 50, you're looking at less space in front of you than is behind you. And it just changes your perspective. And you just look back and you're like, why did I waste so much time and energy on all of this crap that just really makes no sense and doesn't matter, political debates or social media I'm still on social media. It's my trees pruned down so small to what I just only want to see, and eliminating everything else. And I'm just shocked that I wasted so much time in the past, just going in a completely different direction. If anything, I try to figure out why I did, just to try to learn from it. But no, I think for me, it's prioritize. You don't have to have the answer in how you get there. It'll come to you. Visualize how you want to get there. Understand why your emotions are where they're at. And don't be distracted by 20 things. Be distracted by, 2 or 3 things that you just need to focus on.
Well, that sounds like the voice of experience. And had you not, quote unquote, wasted all that time previously, I don't know that you would have come up with the experience and the insights that you have about what you care about. Yeah,
you hit it right on the head. I had a moment in my life, it was about 15 years ago, where horrible marriage, not happy, not fulfilling, young kid, job that I just absolutely hated. I mean, you're talking about all the major essential needs that you have. Market crashes '08, like, all of a sudden you're in a house you don't know if you can afford. Like, you're talking about all of these hierarchy of needs that are just crumbling around you. And I remember telling myself, I would literally throw all of this away just to prioritize being happy. I don't care about anything else. I just want to be happy. And I found myself 10 years later with nothing, but incredibly happy. And I was like, well, this sucks. I'd like to have a little more money, but but it came, it ultimately happened. And then everything else kind of built itself around there. And I don't know if there's a cause and effect necessarily, but I'm somewhat proud of that in my life, to have a moment where I was like, I don't want any of this. I want nothing but just happiness, and getting that and recognizing what brought me that core happiness. It was my relationship. It wasn't the money. It wasn't, job satisfaction. It was really a good, strong relationship is the most important thing. And once that fell into place, everything else did afterwards.
Yes, money will come. Money will come. Sometimes it's the greatest distractor. So it sounds like, here's my hope for you, that when you catch yourself moving forward, caught up in the why did I spend all these years wasted or whatever, that you can reframe that into incentive.
Yeah.
Moving forward for these less than 50 years that you've deemed that you have left on this earth.
I like that, Joe. I like that a lot. It's, as we get to a point where, we've got a year and the last kid's off to college, then it's, we got this window before we have to probably take care of parents. And it's like, how do I be in that moment and live every day the best I can and have the most fun and just, be fulfilling? Yeah. I am really thankful that I went through what I did to get to this point right now. Because I do think it'll allow me to end my days on this earth in a very happy place. So,
yeah, I think so too. Well, Konan, I really appreciate your time and the conversation today, and your careful consideration of these questions and sharing your story. So, thank you.
I appreciate your approach. I appreciate discussions with you. It's very comfortable and easy, and you're doing great work. So, keep it up.
Thanks much. All right, look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks.
This has been Intentionally Ever After, hosted by intentional lifestyle coach Joe Bukartek. If you would like to have your own intentional conversation with Joe on or off the air, visit intentionallyeverafter.com. Thanks for listening.